datim, or religious Jews, or religious Jewish rabbis. The good news I come with is that there are honest Jewish rabbis who respected Jesus, hallelujah, who respected Yeshua. There were honest rabbis who thought he was the top-notch kind of Jew there ever was. And these rabbis are very well known. They are not half-baked rabbis which I created from my head, but they are rabbis which you may have heard of and you may respect. I'm just going to go through them generally now. If you want more details, you can either take their names or I can give you some references. Okay, the first rabbi which I'd like to refer to is Rabbi Gamaliel the Elder, the Tana from the 1st century. This guy's very interesting. He appears in the history books, not in a book written by the, let's call them the rabbinic Jews. His first place in history, the first time he is ever referred to, is in the New Testament. Let me show you this. If you go to the book of the New Testament, I thought I had it here, but I'll just go and get it for you. Okay, well anyway, I can't find it right now, but anyway, in Acts chapter 5, I think it is, in the New Testament, you will find a citation of Rabbi Gamaliel the Elder, and how he warned the Sanhedrin when they were trying two of Yeshua's disciples. And he said to them, be careful, because if this thing is of man, it will come to an end. But if it be of God, be careful, lest you find yourself fighting against God. And he said that the Sanhedrin should leave Peter and John or Kepha and Yochanan alone, because we don't know. They did a good work. They did a miracle. So Rabbi Gamaliel is a rabbi from the time of Jesus, who you guys respect as a Torah scholar. When Rabbi Gamaliel died, and he was the first rabbi, as far as I remember, to be called Rabban, or something like this. He had something unique about him. We can go into that another time. But when he died, the honor of the Torah died with him. And it's he who told the early rabbis of his period in the Sanhedrin, let the church be. You might be fighting against God. And as you can see, we're here 2,000 years later, which is pretty obvious. He was right. We survived. The church did not die. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about Rabbi Gamaliel is this. His first appearance in history is in the New Testament. But obviously you have a lot of stuff about him in the Talmud, and you have a bit about him in the Mishnah, and in the Tosafot. But the first appearance in history is in the New Testament. And then he also appears in Christian traditions from the Eastern Church. These works called the Clementine Homilies and the Clementine Recognitions, which are from the 2nd to the 4th century. And you know what? Rabbi Gamaliel appears as a secret believer in the Lord Yeshua the Mashiach. He was under a dispensation from Simon Peter, Shimon Kepha, to be among the Jewish community in order that he might act as a protector for the church when they were being tried or when they were being treated and abused. He could defend them from inside the community. In other words, he was like a fifth column. You might call it that. But whatever. The man was a Jew, but he was also, according to Christian tradition, which is parallel with the rabbinic tradition. In other words, your traditions come from the Mishnah, the Tosafot, the Midrash, and the Talmud, and the Gemara, etc., etc. In other words, yours comes from the 3rd century onwards. Ours comes from the 1st century. We have the earlier testimony of Rabbi Gamaliel, and in that testimony, he's not only a Torah scholar, but in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century traditions we have, he is a respected Christian, but a secret Christian. That's why I believe it was the honor of the Torah which died when he died. But it doesn't even finish there. If we look into this a little bit more, we find that where Peter and the disciples were meeting in the temple. They met on the temple steps, according to these traditions, the Clementine recognitions. It's exactly the same spot where Rabbi Gamaliel used to sit and make his decrees and send forth his letters to the Jewish communities. So what you find is this: Rabbi Gamaliel, a great Torah scholar, the first Rabban, or the first Rabbi, I'm not sure whether he was the first one to have the Beit Din and the something else at the same time. He is also in Christian tradition, which is exactly parallel in history to Jewish tradition, considered to be a secret believer in Yeshua. It doesn't stop there. Hillel II had an assistant. I think this is around the 5th century we're talking about now. And I can't remember the name of the assistant, but this assistant found some Gospels in some cupboard or some storage place, and this assistant of Hillel Rabbi II claims that on his deathbed Hillel II called for a Christian minister to come and pray with him. So Hillel II, the one who founded your very, and this is as far as I remember. If you want details, I'll have to go and look them up, but no problem, you can check it out yourself. Hillel II found, called for a Christian minister to pray with him on his deathbed, and he too was a secret believer at the end, Hillel II. Okay, doesn't stop here. We now move forward a little bit, and we come to Rambam. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to say Rambam was a Christian. But what I can say is that Rambam said some stuff which tells you that he was challenged by the faith of the Mashiach. For example, he said, all the deeds of Jesus of Nazareth will, in the end, lead to the motivation of the nations to the worshipping of God as one. That was Rabbi Rambam in Hilkot Melachim, chapter 11. You can go check it out when he's talking about the Noachites and that, and he discovers the Messiah. Okay, we don't finish that. We go on now, and we've come forward to the time of the 1700s, I think it is, and we're talking about just after Shabbatai Tzvi has come and gone, that great false Messiah which you guys followed after in the droves. And we come to Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Now he's an interesting guy, so I'll read a little bit about Yaakov Emden. He's a part of Jewish teaching, and I had to bring him out because there was a guy I was debating with on the Israeli network in Facebook who was trying to deny that Judaism had anything to do with Jesus or had any interest in Jesus. So I'm bringing forth these rabbis so that you can do the research and